Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping into a seriously profound and frankly dark conceptual space. We're going to dive headfirst into a grim, graphic novel-style mythic fable to psychoanalyze one of the ultimate philosophical descents, the journey into the Valley of Ash. We'll be exploring the axiological void through a deeply Nietzschean lens, unpacking that massive transition from silent despair to radical self-creation.
To really grasp this, I want you to put yourself directly in the shoes of our protagonist, the Seeker. Imagine standing in a completely desolate landscape, looking up at a ruined creation. As the source text so vividly describes it, here where the sun is a shriveled eye, weeping through curtains of alchemical smog, it stares down at its ruined creation with the dull bovine patience of a god who has long ceased to care. The sky above you isn't black. It's this very specific gray of ash that has entirely forgotten it was ever fire. You are standing in a valley that opens up like a wound that just won't close, facing your own reflection.
Chapter 1. The Architecture of Ash.
So this valley is the ultimate destination for what we'll call the exiles. These are the people who fled here simply because there was nowhere else to go. Every other landscape demanded a faith they just couldn't manufacture anymore. They cling so desperately to dead traditions, arriving wearing jewelry of vertebrae dipped in quicksilver, literally theatrical masks fashioned from their own ancestors. They build these grim cathedrals out of femur and cold iron, calling this architecture noble dissatisfaction. But then, contrast them with you, the Seeker. You're driven by an intellectual conscience so incredibly rigorous, it's basically an affliction. You absolutely refuse to accept these comfortable lies, or even the lies people tell about the comfortable lies.
Now, the old texts warned that this valley was very dry. But what's fascinating is that they weren't speaking about the climate at all. They were talking about ontology. The dryness of this valley is total. See, the exiles aren't actually exhibiting noble dissatisfaction at all. The reality is they're entirely dead, which, ironically, is a far less interesting condition.
Chapter 2. The Axiological Void.
The silence here in this valley isn't just a lack of wind. I mean, there is no wind sufficient enough to rattle these bones anyway. But this silence is the total ontological condition following the murder of God. It's an axiological void, the absolute empty space left behind when all the religious and metaphysical rulebooks completely dissolve into that same smog obscuring the sun, leaving human beings totally alone in a godless world.
And this metaphysical silence is so incredibly complete that if you listen really closely within the void, you can actually hear the echo of the exact question that killed the divine. It's just one word: why? It was this singular, piercing inquiry that destroyed the old reality.
Chapter 3. The Affliction of Honesty. So, as we do this psychoanalytic deep dive, we really have to ask ourselves, how on earth did we end up in this void? Well, the answer lies in our own psychological pathology. First off, it started with the refusal of comfortable, holy lies. As the Seeker, you know God wasn't just mysteriously taken from us. Second, we murdered external meaning ourselves through our own scientific thoroughness. And third, we totally mistook the destruction of our own shelter for progress. The holy lies weren't stolen, they were slowly, clinically dismantled by the cheerful thoroughness of our own human honesty.
Chapter 4. The Terrifying Freedom.
When that smog of meaninglessness finally clears, what's actually left is a desolate reality completely devoid of external authority. This is pure, unadulterated freedom. But the exiles, they experience this void as simply terrifying. They suffer from a paralyzing fear because, tragically, they lost the capacity to understand the word freedom somewhere in transit. Without a divine command or some sort of external ruler to guide them, they are entirely paralyzed.
Standing right there amidst these ruins, surrounded by these paralyzed exiles, you, the Seeker, feel the crushing weight of this void and ask a really vital question. Can these bones live? But you don't raise your eyes to heaven when you ask it. There is no heaven left to raise them to. You ask the question directly to the dry valley itself.
And the response you get is haunting. The valley just returns your voice to you, diminished, and waits. I want you to pause for a second and really feel the immense weight of that metaphysical silence. The valley isn't waiting for a divine miracle from above. It is waiting for a uniquely human response. It's waiting for you to realize your own potential.
Chapter 5. Eruption of the Will to Power.
Because you see, the resolution to this despairing silence absolutely cannot come from the outside. It has to come from within your own psychological depths. In the old reality, human existence was structured by divine command, holy lies, and external teachers. But this new reality, it demands the will to power. This is a magnanimous eruption of the Spirit where you literally create your own law. Rather than waiting around for a new prayer, the breakthrough finally happens when the Spirit outgrows its teachers and finds the internal strength to forge meaning right out of the empty void.
Chapter 6. The Laughter of Amor Fati.
This raw, empty material of the void perfectly sets the stage for the arrival of something radically, entirely new, the Übermensch. This is a spirit born directly from the void that breaks the metaphysical silence, not with despair and definitely not with a new prayer, but with laughter. The Übermensch represents the ultimate psychological triumph in this grim fable. It's about shattering that suffocating ash by joyously laughing right in the face of that terrifying freedom.
And this laughter, it's completely fueled by Amor Fati. It is the act of uttering a profound, echoing yes to a silent, desolate fate. It's a radical love of one's destiny. By fully embracing Amor Fati, the sheer unreason of a godless world is no longer viewed as a tragedy. Instead, it becomes an incredibly open canvas for absolute, unbridled self-creation.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I leave you facing your own reflection. Just like the seeker in the Valley of Ash, that metaphysical silence is still out there, and it's still waiting. So what's it going to be? Will you succumb to the alchemical smog, wearing the dead masks of the past? Or will you find the internal strength to laugh into the void? How will you answer the echo of the valley?